been an incredibly valued friend and colleague at the university for 23 years. He actually joined in 1997. And I remember his actual presentations for his interview and everything. He's an incredibly talented designer, calligrapher, and educator, as most of you already know. And he quickly established his research credentials, gaining his PhD in 2008. And in fact, as far as I understand, his was the first ever PhD in the world about Western calligraphy. And he then developed the IRCC, which is a kind of research centre in calligraphy that's been based here ever since. One of the things that's always struck me about Manny's work is his curiosity and passion for design. And that has always led him to experiment with techniques from across different disciplines. And most recently, I'm sure he's going to discuss with you how he's used hot glass as a mark making tool. Some really fascinating work. And in reality, his fascination with crossing over boundaries, as Alex kind of hinted at there, has been a very long-standing one. And his work crosses over from sort of Eastern traditions to Western, from the handmade to digital. He looks at where old meets new and sort of notions of energy and stillness. There's lots of kind of areas that he's fascinated about. You'll probably know that he's successfully led the MA Design program at Sunderland for many years. And Manny's students have twice voted for him to be awarded Teaching Excellence Awards. And as well as his creative skills, Manny's really well known for his kindness, generosity, and he'll hate me saying this, but his modesty as well. He's such a modest guy. He's going to be incredibly sorely missed, and I hope you'll join me in wishing Manny and Sue every happiness in their new life in Vietnam. So for his final research presentation as a Sunderland academic, please join me in welcoming Dr. Manny Ling.
Thanks, Capri. You made me sound so intelligent. I hope the talk can live up to that. Okay. Right, let me switch over to... I assume you can see my presentation, PowerPoint?
Yep, you can see that fine.
Okay, cool, right. Yeah, thank you for turning up, everyone. I really appreciate that. This is my last talk for the university, I think, because I'm due to leave mid-January after the new year. So it is quite a sort of big honor, really, to be asked to deliver a lecture about my research. And what I like to do, really, is not to talk about particularly about one project that I did. What I want to talk about is perhaps the connectivity, as Gurpreet has mentioned earlier, about how I approach my research. I think that's probably a bit more interesting, because to me, as a creative person, I'm very curious about different materials, processes, and how things are made and how you do certain things. And to me, that's really fascinating. And that has kind of been instilled in me since I was a student many, many years ago as a graphic designer. And that curiosity has still maintained and is still growing. And the reason that I'm leaving Sunderland to Vietnam is the fact that I want to find out how to teach in a different country and how to continue with my research in a different country, different culture. So to me, that's very exciting. You probably need to understand where I come from. I was born in Hong Kong in the 60s, and I immigrated to England in the mid-70s, and I've been here ever since. So it's a good lots of decades in the UK. So obviously I have an upbringing of very sort of traditional Chinese Confucianism, Confucianist traditions. So to me, I think quite often like a Chinese. I can't help it, really. But then I've been raised and educated in the UK throughout most of my life, really. So I have this kind of dual cultural personality, if you like. And it's really nice because I can tap into each culture whenever I want to. And I don't really see them as East or West. It's just my culture, and I can use it whenever I want to. it's also quite daunting, really, this sudden realization that I've been at the university for almost 23 years, and my children has actually grown up and, you know, born and grown up during that time. So you can see a picture of my daughter Emily and my son Alex. He's recently just gone into university, which is great. And then the picture of my wife there, and she is the boss of the family, as you can see there. And just to talk about plans for my future, and since my children has left home, my wife and I are beginning to enjoy our sense of freedom. Really. So we always have this ambition to work and live in Southeast Asia, and this opportunity to work in Vietnam is a really exciting, appealing prospect for us. So, and I also believe the next generation of, you know, creative designers will emerge from Asia. We're beginning to see lots of fantastic work from Japan, Korea, China, etc. So I'm really looking forward to take up this new post at the RMIT University in Saigon. The RMIT University is an Australian university. It stands for the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology University. And they have a very interesting approach to design, arts and design, very sort of employment focused, but at the same time, very heavy on sort of new technology and the use of different processes to create design work. So I'm very kind of excited about that prospect. So the opportunity to develop the design, emerging design education in Vietnam, to me is very exciting. And to be able to work with young creative designers and stars are also, you know, wonderful prospects, really. So I hope everything would go well for me. So Gurpreet, I might come back next year and ask you to give me a job if everything falls flat.
Welcome anytime.
Yeah, I thought I should show you some of my design work quickly, because you need to understand where I come from in terms of what I do as a creative practitioner. And I fit many roles. I'm a designer, I'm a calligrapher, I'm a typographer, and I'm also an educator. I teach, and to me, all those things are interconnected. I don't really see them as separate things. And learning from one discipline would enrich the other. And to me, that's really exciting. So over the years, I think I have about 30 years experience in my freelance practice. I must have designed over 100 plus publications, some examples there on the left. They're usually publications, editorial design work. I've been the design editor for the Edge magazine for over 15 years now. And then recently I'm the design editor for the Scribe calligraphy journal. So I'm going to show you some examples of those later on. I must thank, or take this opportunity to thank Professor Mike Collier, who has been instrumental really in developing the research culture within the faculty, particularly in arts and design. And he has kind of embraced what I do, and to offer me lots of collaborations, opportunities to work on projects together. So here's a book that we designed, or I designed with Mike. Quite often when we design books like this, I mean, this is 250 pages long, and it's not a matter of just putting text and images together. It's almost, one has to really understand the artwork and where the artists are coming from, and then to able to design something that communicates their voices, their kind of vision of what they want to say about the artwork. And the book is almost, to me, like curating an exhibition. You need to really focus on how to display the work to its best light, and how to communicate the text clearly, legibly. So the choice of fonts, the typefaces that you use, the leading, the type size, the page numbers, everything is considered. Nothing is left to chance. So that approach is actually quite different to some of my calligraphic work, which is very spontaneous and immediate. And I really love that contrast and contradictions to how I work. So quite often with my graphic design work, it's very, very detailed, and sometimes you can spend quite a long time on just a double-page spread, just to make sure that the typography and the legibility and the communication aspects are really spot on. So thank you, Mike, for giving me all these wonderful opportunities. I also work for external clients, for museums and other bodies. This one is for the Wordsworth Trust in Grasmere. And it's really interesting when you're a designer, you get to learn a lot of things. For example, I never knew that Wordsworth there's a connection between Wordsworth and the Battle of Waterloo, for example. So, and one of the things that a designer has to do is to read every single word in this book. So the process of doing that has kind of educated me about lots of different things, which is fascinating. And another thing I want to say is this, that although you spend a lot of time and a lot of effort in creating these pages, I would say 90% of the population wouldn't even consider these things when they pick up a book. They would just pick up a book, they read the text, they flip through the pages, and that is it. However, that doesn't mean that piece of work shouldn't be designed to the best of your ability. So to me, God is in the details, I think, and that's really important to me. So I've been designing the Edge magazine for over 15 years now. I think over 80 editions, 4 editions a year, all on a pro bono basis, because I always believe that one should give back to your society or community that you belong to. So to me, I'm very happy to design all these magazines in my own time. And I really enjoy that process too, because I'm not charging people for the design. I have much more flexibility with the design, and fortunately the editor, she really understands how I want some of the pages to work, so I'm able to really kind of push the boundaries really of designing the pages here. So I really have good fun in doing these things. So it's not a chore at all. It's actually really good fun, and it's a good antidote to the sort of daily work that one has to do within a university. So recently I've been asked to be the design editor for the Scribe Journal, and this is a very different kind of magazine, much more formal, much more traditional. The readership are much more older. It's more academic in nature. So everything has to be sort of pared down, and again, one has to design the pages accordingly. And to me, that's really important too. That how whatever that you design needs to address the audience that you're designing for. Yeah, this catalogue I designed many years ago for one of the glass professors, Zora Belova. And I really enjoyed this project because I was, again, it's a freebie, if you like, it's for a friend, but I was able to really explore the different materials, different printing techniques, like the die cuts here, and the use of different colored paper, and using overlay tracing paper, etc., for some of the pencil sketches. So that to me is a really exciting kind of approach to design, where you can really explore different aspects of the printing and the use of the paper stock. And lately, last year, some of you might remember, some of the third years here, you might remember your degree show, particularly the design students. I created the publicity identity for the show. Again, I really enjoy the work here, where I had this concept of using dingbats or symbols to create the alphabet. So I designed the whole alphabet using different symbols, and to then set them into words. The idea is that sometimes it's really difficult to design something for art for like an arts and design degree show, because there's so many different disciplines, so many different students all doing different things. And I just felt that using symbols, different symbols to represent different students, different disciplines is quite an interesting approach. So as you can see here, that's my kind of take on that. And we're lucky to have 6 windows on the side of the museum. So I thought it would be nice to have a letter each spelling design on there, on the window. And then luckily we have Paul Adamson, who's a fantastic technician, who's able to build all these columns and tables for us. And I must say the exhibition looks really, really professional, and was well praised by the museum people and the students and their parents as well. So going to move on to my research now and to talk about my research philosophy. You probably gather that a lot of my design is very simple, it's very direct, and that's because of my kind of influence by a designer called John Maeda. He's an American-born Japanese designer, and I came across his work about 15 years ago and was really inspired by his philosophy on simplicity. So I've been using that for a lot of my design work and certainly for my calligraphy work as well. So my research area, if you like, it explores many different areas, but primarily it's about the written words, okay? And it's about how it fits in the context of graphic communication and the lettering arts. And as Gurpreet mentioned earlier, a lot of my work are cross-cultural and cross-discipline, or disciplinary. I really enjoy that aspect of mixing things together. And sometimes I don't really know what I'm doing, in the sense that I haven't tried certain things before, and I just have to do it to see what happens. And I think that curiosity approach, or curious approach, is really important. You don't need to do something. You don't need to do something that you already know how to do. Sometimes you have to try things that you don't know. And this is something that I always say to my MA students. You know, you come onto the MA and don't do things that you're comfortable with. Do something that you're not comfortable with. What is your challenge for today? You know, do something that you've never done before. And I think that's a really important factor in how to develop oneself as a creative person. And I do really enjoy using other processes on other disciplines. So, for example, I worked quite a lot in the glass department. I worked a lot with computational designs and things like that. And I'll explain some of those work later on. So I mentioned before about the influence of John Maeda. And also I'm really inspired by the Chinese notion of qi. Qi is, you probably heard of this term before. In a simple term, explanation is the energy that we have within us, okay, the essence of us. So when we create a piece of work, be it a piece of mark making or a piece of glass making, or even a photograph that you take, that, I believe, that piece of artwork would have aspects of yourself in it, okay, that essence, that energy. So when you look at a piece of artwork, you can really see someone's energy and essence or personality in the work, just like, say, handwriting. And I really love exploring that aspect of my work. And I mentioned before, to me, research is connected to everything that we do. So as an academic, I always think about how does my research filters into the curriculum. And I think one aspect that I kind of teach, but not in a formal way. I don't really say, you know, this is my kind of research and this is what I'm teaching in your module. And I think a lot of the students here would agree with me on this, that I get them to think about, for example, the use of materials, materiality of things. And I get them to think about how to use their hands, the digits, their fingers, opposed to, or as well as the digits on a keyboard that you find on a computer. And this sense of touch, be it, you know, actual things that you can touch or metaphysical things that you can't touch, but you still create. So for example, if you are using a piece of software or you are creating a piece of computer codes to create designs, you are touching something. And that sense of touch to me is really important, because if you learn how to control that, then is where you know, creativity and other things would come in. So I always encourage my students to appreciate the, if you like, the organic nature of design, and not to be too over reliant on digital software all the time. Okay, and to me, creativity comes through playing with materials. You know, you have to kind of get your hands dirty and smell the ink and so on to be able to understand what's going on. And it doesn't matter if it's a piece of paper or a set of computer codes, it is still something that you need to create by yourself. And I think that's very important. So yeah, so having a heightened sense of touch and integrity in your work, I think would enlighten your creative process. I'm certain of that. And in terms of what I do for my research, about 20 years ago, I think it's 1999, 21 years ago, I, with the help of Professor Ewan Clayton and Reverend Robert Cooper, I set up the International Research Centre for Calligraphy. And really that, I set that up to kind of help me to understand what research in design is. I won't go into the details, but I just find that if I do sort of calligraphic work as my research, is far easier to quantify than if I were to do design work. However, sort of now the aspects of calligraphy, design, and other things kind of all merge together anyway. So anyway, I set up calligraphy, the Calligraphy Centre, and that has really opened many doors for me. For example, I've set up over the 20 odd years about 14 international symposia. The last two I had it in Bruges in Belgium, and the last one was in Kyoto in Japan. So it's really kind of opened up this international aspect of what the IRCC is doing. And with each of the symposium, I have a theme in mind. So for example, the one in Belgium, 2015, we were exploring the context of the words, how calligraphers, they tend to write other people's words. And I want to create a symposium where calligraphers from all over the world can come in to one place and to actually learn and understand how one could use our own words. So I asked a famous poet from the UK called David Jones to come and join us, and then we had some international calligraphers to then run several masterclasses and so on. So that has really benefited a lot of the calligraphers in that symposium there. And then the previous one from Japan, we were looking at, for example, the use of brushes in calligraphy, both Oriental and Western brushes, and how that could be used in a creative manner. So that was very, very interesting. So as you can see, throughout the 20 odd years, I've developed a kind of an extensive international research network where we can collaborate on different projects, to do different exhibitions and publications and things like that. And then the last 10 years, I have set up a scheme. It's an artist in residence scheme where I would invite people, particularly calligraphers, to come into the department to set up a studio in the gallery where they can work do their own work over a period of time, 2 to 3 weeks, and they can then engage with the students, maybe to do a bit of teaching, and then to have an exhibition of their work at the end. And I always find that really useful to have that connection of external artists, designers coming in to connect with students and so on. And I've also curated numerous international and national exhibitions. I laugh because I have a flashback of the amount of work that I have to do, because, you know, setting up an exhibition by yourself is not fun, and it takes a lot of hard work. And remember the days where, you know, you have 90 pieces of work that you need to pull up in a gallery by yourself. Was really hard work, but I did have help from colleagues and so on, but usually it's just by myself. So, but the purpose of setting lots of these calligraphy exhibition is that quite often we have exhibitions of calligraphy, normally in the south, in London, and I always had this intention to have it in the northeast, major exhibitions in the northeast, so that people will come to us instead. And that's always get really good feedback from people, because it just reaches out to a lot of people who wouldn't be able to travel too far, and so on. So throughout my personal research, I have collaborated with different colleagues in the faculty. And I've also set up in 2010 the first foundation degree in calligraphy and design at Kensington Palace in London. We were asked by Prince Charles to set up a program like this. So that was really good fun, but sadly we have to close the program down after a few years due to low enrollments. But lately on the MA and the PhD, we managed to recruit quite a lot of students, and it was really nice to see some of the students apply to Sunderland because of this calligraphy research culture that we have. And certainly on the MA and the PhD, I'm supervising sort of 2 or 3 students, simply because we can offer that supervision here. So I really want to highlight that because of the IRCC, it has really promoted a wider profile of the department. And much of it is thanks to Professor Flavor Swan, who was the dean, previous dean of the faculty, and also Professor Brian Thompson. They have really been helpful and instrumental to helping me to establish myself as a researcher and as an academic, and also supporting the IRCC as well. So I must thank them for that. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so here's some of my work. Calligraphy done by hand, and then scanned into Photoshop and then manipulated. I quite enjoy this process of working because there's this thing called Command Z. So you can delete things or you can undo things if you make a mistake. So I really quite like that. However, after a while, you kind of get bored because it's not exciting enough, because I want to do a piece of calligraphy looking like that without having to do Command Z, you see, or undo. So yeah, I mean, this is way sort of early 200s, I think, maybe 1999, something like that, quite early really. And surprisingly, no one has done any calligraphy using digital media at that time. So it's quite interesting to explore that at that time. I mean, now you see it quite often all over the place, but at that time was quite unique. And then at the same time, I was exploring font design, because I used to work as a type designer at for Letterset, a company who used to do rub-down letters for the 70s. Some of you might remember that. But in the early sort of, so what was I saying? In the early 90s, yeah, they were sort of quite popular in designing typefaces. So I designed some typefaces, and this is one of them. based on my calligraphic writing. And to me, this is actually a piece of typography and not calligraphy, because I typed the letters out and not written it out. So there's a distinction to be made between what typography is and what hand lettering is and what calligraphy is. Again, to me, once you design the font, which is very exciting and different, you get bored after a while because it's just a layout exercise. And to me, I'd rather do something that looks like that, where it's handmade. So here I have some examples of calligraphy written by hand, digitized, and then laser etched onto plywood. Got to thank Carl Gregg for helping me to do that. As you can see, the results is very, very different. And one thing about using digital media is that if you see the middle panel there, that is the same artwork as that. So you can use it multiple times on different media and services, which is really interesting. This one here uses computational design or calligraphy. The top part there is a piece of computer codes, which Carl has kindly done for me. And basically is then laser etched. And then I added the calligraphy afterwards. I don't know if the image is too small. It actually says there is simplicity without complexity. Okay. Again, inspired by John Maeda. Right, okay, so I'm going to show you a bit of video. I've been working with colleagues in glass, call it the pyrographic work. And if I may show you a piece of video of, where is it? Yeah, here. And basically, the whole process is really interesting. You draw the hot glass from the furnace, and you have to then press the glass onto paper, which makes a burn mark. But as you work, the glass hardens, and then you have to then know how to manipulate the glass in order to create the kind of marks that you want. But sometimes you don't know what the marks will be unless you actually do it. So I really love this kind of immediacy that you need to have for this kind of work. And I'm just going to show you the video of the process. Yeah, I'll stop the video there. And as you can see, the glass starts to harden, and then you need to react to it in a different way to create the marks. This is on YouTube, so if you want to have a longer look at this video, you can do. I must say thank you to Ayako for the use of the water spray, because as you can see, sometimes things goes into flames, and you need a second person with a water spray to help to get rid of the fire. So thank you, Ayako. Okay. I assume everyone is still okay. Yeah, they can see the presentation and hear me okay?
Yep, that's fine, Manny.
Okay. By the way, I can't see any messages and so on, so you just have to let me know if there's any kind of questions and so on. Okay, back to the presentation. How am I doing for time, Alex? Or Capri?
We have a little bit of time, Manny.
Until when?
Well, the session finishes at 5, but
Okay.
it really depends how many questions people have. I can see the chat is quite active, so.
All right. Okay. I'll be as quick as I can. Okay. So from this, I develop various pieces of work using this pyrographic technique to create, if you like, mark making on paper. So here you can see 4 pieces of paper stretched across the floor, and then using the glass to create different sort of marks. And here I had this vision of the sort of snowy Northumbrian landscape, and then I was using the poem by Yeats, Love's Philosophy. I think that worked quite well. So quite often I would make these marks, and then I would think about what calligraphy to use, or what text to use. Now, it's interesting that, as I mentioned before, how everything is connected. If you just kind of take a visual photograph of this piece of work, especially the background mark making, then I'll show you some work later where there's a kind of a strange resemblance of it. So I want to talk about this piece. It's probably one of the most important pieces of work that I ever done, in the respect of how sometimes things just happen in the creative process where you just have no control over. And I can only believe that will only happen if you keep working at something, or you keep thinking about something. So I was involved with an exhibition set up by Mike Collier. Thank you, Mike. And I was working with a poet, Professor John Stratton, and he sent me these words to kind of for me to interpret. So I'll just read these words out because I think it's really lovely, lovely words. It says, "Words are not like other creatures. They have demarcations unique to themselves. They have dark canalities of their own, inkscapes of beauty, eyed inward." It's just beautiful, beautiful words. And I was really inspired by these words. So I did my usual thing. I wrote some calligraphy text using those words. And I was really not satisfied with how they look, because the script, the calligraphic script, do not interpret to me the meanings of the words. So I was really kind of frustrated. I tried and tried and just could not get it right. And I almost kind of gave up. And then all of a sudden, this script just came out of nowhere, which really surprised me. So if you imagine, I've never written, a D like that, or turning the E sideways, or just really, even some of the strokes that I've made is completely new, completely alien to what I normally would do. So that's really, really interesting how that happened. And I couldn't really explain it. So it kind of shows sometimes you really have to just work at things, don't give up. And eventually things would come. I think sometimes when you are pressured into a situation, your mind would work in a particular way. I'm sure some of you would have experienced that. And to me, this piece of work, although it's just if you like, a sketch, it's not really a formal piece of work. To me, is valuable. I would not part from this piece of work. To me, it just tells me a lot about myself and how everything's possible, really, and just don't give up and just keep trying. So and since then, with this script, I'd be able to. I mean, this is back in 2013. So the last 7 years, I've been able to develop this script, fine-tuning it, and really kind of make it my own. And I'm going to show you some examples of that. I've also done a version where it's vertically written. And I'd just like to very quickly show you an example of how collaborations, actually, I like to talk about collaboration. Sorry, let's go back to the, whoops, collaboration. I really enjoy collaborating with different people, because when you work with someone else, you have to respect what other people are doing. You need to work differently. So in this instance here, this bottom two images here, I was working with a sumi ink artist from Japan. So she would do the background painting, and then I would do the calligraphy over the painting. And I'd just like to share with you the process very quickly. So this is back in 2016. I was lucky enough to visit Japan, to her studio, and we talked about the project. Again, this is another project that Mike Collier has set up for us. So we were paired to work together, and here's some examples of her work. And then I was exploring how to, oh, I don't know why the pictures could not be displayed. I think, let me get out of that. Okay, yeah. And then I was sort of working out where I could put my text. And then she sent me samples of her backgrounds with different kinds of paper. And I was testing out different kinds of sumi ink to match her sumi ink color, because don't think that all sumi ink is black and they're all the same. They're not. There's different tints of black. Some are red, some are blue, some are green, some are brown. So you need to make sure you use one that matches the sumi painting. And then just some examples here of her working, etc. And then there's examples of me developing my script. And then here's a video of how I write. So that's a letter S. The first two letters is INT. So I'm trying to write the word itself. So that's an E. And then the bottom of the L becomes the top of the F. As you can see, the word itself there. So writing vertically, like the Chinese writing, is actually very, very difficult to do it with Roman letters. So that can only come through lots of practice and experimentation. Here's another video of me writing. I just like you to listen to the sound. To me, that hearing the sound to me is quite reassuring, because when the sound is right, you know you make the right strokes. Okay, so just have a listen. Okay. I'll just turn the sound down. So she sent me the artwork folded on and stuffed in an A4 envelope. You can see the creases here, and trust me, it's quite a daunting experience to have to then work on someone's pristine artwork like this. So I've discovered a technique where I need to apply acrylic matte medium over the artwork in order to write on top of it. Otherwise, if I don't do anything to the artwork, and if I just start writing with the pen, the ink would just bleed everywhere. So I need to seal, if you like, the whole surface of the artwork. So I have to do this in my kitchen. And then here's another picture of that. Yeah, so yeah, it's quite a daunting experience, and imagine having to then write on top of the artwork. So here's a close-up of that. You really only have one take, one go at this. You can't have, you can't make any mistakes. So I remember, my mental kind of sort of state was, I was totally concentrated in the act of writing. So kind of nothing else matters. If the kitchen goes on fire, I probably wouldn't care. It's that kind of situation where you are totally concentrated in what you do. Okay, complete kind of silence. I couldn't have any music on at that time. Normally I put my music on and just do my work, but with this I really need to concentrate. So it's almost like meditation, if you like. And I'm really glad to say, the last stroke that I made, I just made a big sigh of relief, and I managed to make no mistakes, and the calligraphy was actually quite amazing. So I'm really happy with the outcome, and it's probably the best piece of work that I've made so far in my career. And the thing is, when you see the artwork like this unmounted, it looks fine. But when you see it mounted properly in the traditional fashion, and I'll come back to this. Oh no, yeah, you see here, it just looks absolutely amazing. So yeah, I was really pleased that we managed to mount the artwork in the traditional way, and also not have it hung vertically but horizontally as well, which is quite different, quite new. Yeah, I was going to point out, if you can have a look at some of the background here that I create, they are actually not that different to some of the marks that I made here, but using a completely different tool. So this is what I mean about the interconnection of things that we do in our research. One aspect translate to another. Okay, I thought that's quite interesting. And in 2018, I was invited to have a solo exhibition in Hong Kong, in the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, one of the top universities of Asia. So it's quite a prestigious event. I was very honored, really, to be asked, and I designed a catalogue and got it printed and so on. So that's a real opportunity to disseminate my work and my research to a different kind of audience. And I was really happy that at the end of the exhibition, they asked to keep my work in their special permanent collection. And me being a sort of I didn't realize the importance of it at the time. I just said, oh yeah, just keep whatever you want, the only pieces of calligraphy. And it's only later my friend told me, my Chinese friend told me that the special collection is actually a very prestigious collection, and they only ask people if they think the work's of a certain caliber. So I was really humbled by that. So there you go, something I can tell my mom, make her proud. Yeah, very quickly then, design education. So I kind of managed to travel around the world through my work, and I can see lots of design students from across the world, different cultures doing design, and that's really interesting. And And to me, as a designer, concepts and ideas is the key, and to be able to work with materials to come up with different design ideas is very important. So to me, concept and intelligent designs, if you like, are very important. And as a calligrapher, I really enjoy the immediacy and the holistic connection to the tools and materials that I use. And in bringing all these different experiences together, I would then encourage my students to explore traditional and digital processes to develop their control and their understanding of materials, processes, integrity, and this kind of sense of touch. So I just want to quickly share with you some of my students' work. Really love their work, year one, and you can probably see my influences coming through here. Again, this bottom two image here about sense of touch, and here using sound to create sound waves and then to create fonts from the sound waves, which is very interesting. Third years, concentrating more about employability, boosting their confidence and making themselves more employable, to have a portfolio that they're proud of. Those are the kind of key kind of approaches for third years, and able to work with live clients as well. It's very important process to develop their confidence. So other examples here. And then moving on to the MA design, where the students can spend a whole year exploring on a design project of their own, looking at maybe cultural context or technology, or even sort of example here where this student uses computational design. So everything you see here is designed by the creation of computer codes, and not by using a software like Photoshop or Cinema 4D to create these images. It's all done by the keyboard, which I think is just amazing. And again, this sense of materiality in this work is very apparent. PhD, Carl using computational design to create mark making. Susan, who can create these handmade pages. She has these sketchbooks. It just looks amazing. Everything is handwritten and hand illustrated. And her research is to look at or to determine whether there's where ancient scribes, whether they use units of measurements to determine their layout and so on, which is very interesting. Other PhD research, Bin uses paper and burning to create landscapes and so on. Very, very interesting. Catherine using fused glass and 3D printing. And then Ayako using landworking and calligraphy to create new forms of art and expression. Very, very interesting work, and very sort of proud to be their supervisors throughout their PhD. And I think I'm going to finish here. I'm just going to leave you with this poem, which I always kind of read when I'm feeling a bit kind of uninspired, or I just need a bit of energy. I think this poem is really, really nice. So I'm just going to leave you with that. And I suppose if there's any questions, I'm happy to do my best to answer them.
Thank you, Manny. That was a fascinating presentation, and the amount and diversity of your work is truly impressive. Now, I know that probably quite a few people might want to ask questions, so I have unmuted attendees. So if people want to ask a question, you can raise your hand, or you can put your question in the chat. Mike? Mike?
Shall I unshare my screen? Might make it easier for you to control.
Let's see. Mike, can you connect? Sorry, let's just check. Sorry, just checking. I have unmuted everybody.
Hi, Manny. That was really good. Thanks for sharing your practice.
Thanks, Kevin.
My son Oscar will always remember your pyrography that he did in Creative Industries Weeks with you when he was a foundation student.
Oh yes, yes, yes.
I think you've influenced him a lot, Manny.
Oh, thank you.
I think Mike's still muted. Maybe I think you have to unmute yourself, Mike. I think he's still muted, I'm afraid. Oh.
Okay, maybe
other questions people might have until I think Mike is probably writing his question. Any?
There's some question. Okay, Kevin's got his hand up.
Yes, Kevin.
Thanks, Manny. That was really great. I just wondered, you talked a lot about obviously calligraphy and writing, but I wondered, do you ever make drawings?
Not drawing per se. I'm not really good at it, to be honest, but I do a lot of those mark making backgrounds, if you like. They inspired by landscapes or nature, so I do a lot of that with Sumi ink, and that's been something I've been really exploring for the last 6-7 years. And the beauty of that is I really don't know what I'm doing sometimes. I just play with the brush and the ink and see what happens, and sometimes they just look really beautiful and it's just like, wow. and I suppose I'm aware that I'm lucky that I'm not being trained in the traditional way, because if I was trained by a traditional Chinese painter master, I would have to ask for his permission to have an exhibition, can I do my painting in this way or that way, out of respect. So I'm really lucky that I'm not really linked to any people, and I'm just doing this by myself, and it's actually quite enriching. I kind of surprise myself at times what I can do, you know. So yeah, thanks for that question.
Thanks, that's interesting. Yeah.
Nick, you have your hand up?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Manny, I was just going to ask, you talk about risk and the risk when you got that piece of work, and it was something that you knew you had one take, and you could break it, or you could make a huge mistake and there was no going back. Do you think that the risk, and as you're working, had direct effect on the quality of your work in terms of your attention as you're doing it? Do you think risk is actually quite a good thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think taking risk is so important, and especially, like, you know, you have just one go at something. I really love doing things like that. It sounds weird, right? But I love that challenge. And obviously, touch wood, so far all my attempts has been fine. I haven't made any major boo-boos, you know. So particularly those 3 scrolls, I know I only have one take, and I basically just have to concentrate like mad, you know, and just do it. And I think, yeah, to answer your question, I think if you do concentrate, really concentrate, I mean, there's concentration and there's like really concentrate, where your whole body and mind is centralized into one place, and then you know that's what you need to do and nothing else matters. Then you know something would work. You know, it's very scary. Honestly, I couldn't dare breathe until I finished the last stroke. And but when it's done and you look at the work, you just say, wow, that's amazing. You know, you feel a real sense of achievement, if you like. You know, it's like sometimes fighting with the devil and you win. Yeah. You know, so far, luckily, I haven't made any major mistakes in work like that. So, I mean, I do make lots of mistakes with my calligraphy work. Trust me. I mean, I'm the worst speller in the calligraphy world, you know. So don't think I don't make any mistakes at all. And sometimes you just say, it is what it is, you know. I just submit the work for an exhibition, knowing there's a spelling mistakes in there. Or sometimes, you know, you say, oh, you know, that's, you know, I just put some gold on top of the spelling mistake and people won't notice, you know. So there are ways to hide your mistakes in calligraphy. Or sometimes you just have to redo the piece, if it's a piece of commission, for example. Yeah, so I'm the worst speller in calligraphy, trust me. But sometimes when you do need to have that concentration, you just concentrate and the work will, you know, it will just work, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks for that question.
Another question is Christos. You raising your hand?
Hello.
Hello. Hi.
At some point, you talked about having to adapt your work in different audiences, and like
Yeah.
I was very much wondering about like how do you do that? Like make specific changes so that specific types of audiences can adapt with.
Yeah, I mean, it works both in design and calligraphy, because if you ask to produce work for an exhibition, you know there's certain types of audience, so you might do your work in a particular way. And certainly with design, you have to address your audience. So the design that you create has to appeal to the audience that the work is going to be used by these people. So, for example, the Scribe journal, I know for a fact the target audience would be older generations, you know. So,
yeah.
You know, you probably remember me saying, oh, when you design with type, keep it small, 8 point, 10 point. In that instance, I have to make it 10 or sometimes 11 points, knowing, you know, these older generation, they can't read small text, you know. So that's just a very simple kind of approach, for example. And you need to make sure that the leading is quite open, so then when they read the text, it's easier to read. You know, just tiny details like that, which a lot of people wouldn't even see, you know, or appreciate. But you know that you need to do these things, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So that doesn't like have to affect like your style in some kind of way, like having to change your style in like your work, judging by the audiences.
Yeah, definitely. Again, going back to the Scribe journal, I initially proposed some what I thought was nice contemporary looking designs.
Yeah.
Then the editor come back and said, I don't think the audience will appreciate the, you know, I was trying to do something sort of innovative with the typography and layout, and so I have to write, okay, I understand. So I pare it right down and make it kind of normal looking. Yeah, so you have to compromise sometimes. End of the day, design is not just about you pleasing yourself, it's about pleasing the client and pleasing the target audience. So you do need to make those exceptions, or you know.
Right.
Whereas with my calligraphy, I could probably say I could do what I want because it's my artwork. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a different kind of approach, very different. But I love that duality, that contrast. You know, one has to be very purposeful, detailed, and the other one not so, very immediate, spontaneous, do it, see what happens, kind of thing. So that it's almost like a complete opposite approaches. Yeah.
Right. Oh, okay. Thanks so much, Manny.
Thanks, Christos. Thank you.
I'll give it. Can you hear me now,
Yeah,
Alex?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, good. I went out and came in again. Manny, first of all, thank you so much for that. It was absolutely wonderful. The kind of generosity and ability and beauty in it was fabulous. I wanted to ask you something that we've talked about over quite a few years, really, is could you tell us a little bit about how you view the centrality of calligraphy to design? It's not an outlier, is it? It's something which you see as fundamental to the design process. Do you want to say a little bit about that?
Could you rephrase the question? There's a couple of big words you use. I don't quite understand. Sorry, Professor.
Calligraphy is central to design, Manny, as you frequently say. Yes. Now, could you just say a little bit about that? Because I think it is. It's not something which is, kind of on the side. It's absolutely fundamental to it.
Yeah, what it is when you have a blank piece of paper, is a negative space, right? So in calligraphy, as soon as you make a mark on that paper, it doesn't matter where it is, you're activating that space. So in a similar way, if I have to do a piece of graphic design, typography, I'm putting my first letter on the page, and that activates that space. And then in calligraphy, you can then control where you can put the marks to make that space balanced, for example, or make it dynamic or serene. With design, is more or less the same, except you're using type with prescribed forms, which you then have to arrange into sentences and paragraphs and So you can control that. You can make a piece of graphic design that looks exciting, looks very serene, looks very expressive, sad, whatever. So to me, that's where the connection between the two is so apparent to me, So I would say I don't really teach calligraphy to my students, but I teach the philosophy of it, which I think is very interesting. Yeah. So I don't know if I answered your question there, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely, Manny. Absolutely. Yeah. I get that. I'm sure everyone else did as well.
Thank you. Okay.
Questions you might have for Manny?
I don't think there's anything else.
Julia? I think Julia is there.
Julia, okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Julia. Yeah.
Hi. I was just wondering whether you'll be taking your new brush making skills away with you on your world adventures.
Absolutely. Jane, I must thank you so much for teaching me how to make brushes. Now I'm so inspired. I spent all weekend making those feather brushes, the feathers that Donna gave me. Yeah, absolutely. I will definitely take that, and I might even teach the students in Vietnam how to make brushes using all sorts of different things. So yeah, thank you. And of course, not just to make the brushes and let it fester and not use them. I will actually use some of those brushes, which I have, to create my own artwork, which I think is very special.
It was a pleasure working with you in Creative Industries Week.
Oh no, it's a pleasure as all mine. It's seeing you work is just phenomenal. How you can just draw and make things. It's fabulous, really.
The lunch wasn't bad afterwards either.
Oh no, the lunch was out of this world. Thank you for that. Yeah, thank you.
Any further questions for Manny?
Yeah.
There is a question about, are you going to miss us all?
Oh, of course. Absolutely. Look, you don't spend 20 odd years in a place and not miss it. I'm not leaving. I just want to make it clear. I'm not leaving because I'm not happy about working in Sunderland. I'm actually really happy. I get up every morning and I look forward to coming in. You can't ask any more than that in a workplace. And I work with some fantastic colleagues, as you know, and some fantastic students, as you know. I really enjoy working with them, and I learn so much from working with the students. Never mind working with my colleagues. It's just so enriching. So this is what I really enjoy about working in a university. And we're very lucky, trust me. I've been around a lot of different universities. And to me, Sunderland is a really, really special place. You are so lucky to be in such a place, to be taught by so many wonderful colleagues, and to be in a faculty where people are just so friendly, so kind of forward looking. It just makes everything easier, you know. And I know for a fact, if I were to work in let's just say some larger universities, I know for a fact, you know, I would be kind of, I wouldn't be able to do half the things that I was showing you today. So I just want to say thank you to everyone. You make my life much easier. I know I'm a bit of a moaner sometimes, but that's just coming share out of my passion to make sure that I want things to be done properly and to be done well. That's all. So if I moan at you, students, I apologize, but it's all for your own benefits and colleagues as well. So yeah, so thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Manny. I mean, I think, you know, if this pandemic has proved something, the silver lining is that we can actually get together, even if you are so far away, you know, in Vietnam. So
yeah, absolutely. I'll still be in touch. So don't worry, I'm not totally gone yet. And no doubt I'll be working with Mike on another project some other time. Yeah. So so thank you very much for this opportunity, Alex. Really, it's actually quite appropriate to give a last lecture, if you like, before I go. I think you kind of rounds it off quite nicely. So thank you for that opportunity.
Well, thank you, Manny. I know that this is a very busy period of time for you, and thank you for taking the time to do this, and also for giving the seminar of visual identity with a wonderful poster that you designed for us. So
those are fun things that I enjoy doing, you know, although it's late at night or whatever. But yeah. So yeah, thank you very much. I just couldn't really thank people enough, really. So I hope you're all well, and look forward to semester 2.
Well, we hope you have a good trip, and good luck to your new adventures. I'm very sorry I haven't got any mince pies to at this point in time. This is all virtual, but for those of you who don't get to see, we wish you all a very good and well-earned restful break.
Yeah.
And certainly Manny will be in touch. Thank you, Gurpreet, for the introduction.
Yeah, thank you, Gurpreet. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us tonight.
I paid him £5, you know.
Yeah, it's like half my salary.
I know. I was asking for £10. I thought, gosh, I managed to get a 50% discount. Okay, thanks, Gurpreet. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
I will now read all the messages. Wonderful messages.
Yes, there's a very interesting discussion thread there for you, Manny. So.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks, Gurpreet.
Thank you so much, Manny. Goodbye.
Thank you, Christos. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye, Manny. Thank you.
Oh, bye, Ross. Bye. Take care. It's more conversation about chili paddy then.
Oh, I know. It's such a great place.
Oh, actually, I should stop recording, shouldn't I?
I think you can. Yeah, can't stop it.
Okay.